Thursday the 26th of January 1995. I was woken by the news of our arrival in San Antonio. It was 5:30 a.m. and the station was very pretty and grand, with a wide staircase and a large round stained glass window at the top of the stairs, through which I watched the light of morning appear through the coloured glass. As I emerged into the daylight, I was pleasantly surprised, as it wasn't the big city I was expecting. Not traffic, not skyscrapers, but friendly Raoul, a security guard who directed me to the visitors centre. "If you need anything," he said, "I'll be here. Just ask." As I left, it began to rain, a nice, soft, warm rain. The famous Alamo had scaffolding round it, and a man in black sat outside Woolworths, wearing a Stetson hat. He was a friendly chap and asked me where I was going. I said, "I'm not sure yet. I'm just exploring and doing a bit of drawing." What I really needed to do was find some accommodation, unload this heavy rucksack, and freshen up a little. Or more accurately, a lot. After a few phone issues and the payphone swallowing my quarter, I managed to find a motel on East Commerce called the Suzanne, run by a nice Indian family. It was both reasonably priced and comfortable. It had a TV, a shower, a bath, a big bed. It was just perfect. I washed all my underclothes and socks in the sink and strung them up across the room. I showered and laid down, and it was pure bliss after the days and days of travelling. And nice to be able to unpack my bag and put some clothes into the drawers for a few days. Most people seem to think that motels are tacky, but I love those little packets of soap and the way they tidy your room every day. But slightly embarrassed about the underwear bunting. San Antonio was lovely. I flicked through the free pamphlets and set off for the Mexican market stall, full of interesting objects, carvings, clothes, hats and chilies. I was very tempted by a tortilla press, but eventually decided against adding a large piece of cast iron to my inventory. Friday the 27th of January. I arose early, keen to explore, and walked down to the riverside. Along the way I found an arts and crafts centre. Not everything was open at this time, but one lady opened up early and beckoned me into her gallery. She was showing a friend round. The exhibition was slightly morbid. It was full of clothes hanging, but they were shaped as if people were inside the clothes. One was an invisible doctor, with his medical bag, visiting the bed of an invisible sick child. It was an interesting exhibition, but made me feel a little bit strange, which was perhaps the intention of the artist. It was at this point that I actually found out the friend was actually the artist, and the gallery owner introduced me. I didn't know whether to bow or applaud, or I felt a bit awkward, as despite having spent many years at art college, I'm not very good at talking to other artists about their work, especially ones I've never met before. So, probably missing a great opportunity, I smiled and left and continued on my river walk in the sunshine, past brightly coloured restaurant umbrellas, to the pleasant centre of San Antonio. I decided to head to one of the famous missions and walked over dusty, busy roads, by gas stations, along roadside cafes, sweating like a dog longing for a pond. I eventually came to Mission Conception and joined in the popular ritual of sketching. The place was literally teeming with sketchers and watercolourists. Well, I didn't mind if it was overpainted as a subject matter. It was new to me, and nice to sit in the peaceful shade and draw. On the way back I stopped for supplies at a supermarket. Hanging everywhere were Mexican piñatas, brightly coloured papier-mâché and tissue paper figures, animals, objects, superheroes, including the Power Rangers. I ended up in Alamo Street, where I looked in all the interesting galleries of Mexican crafts. I'd really like to buy them all and take them home, but I'm just conscious about my big rucksack. It just seems to get heavier. Before I took the bus back to the motel, I noticed some lights leading down to a basement shop. And as I entered the dark, dank space, I was excited to find that it was full of Mexican crafts at bargain prices, and also infested with cockroaches, really big ones. They were running around some really lovely things. I bought a coyote carved and painted in turquoise dots. The shopkeeper told me that they were made by a husband and wife The man does the carving, and his wife paints. He wrapped up the coyote in Mexican newspaper for added authenticity. And when I got back to the motel, I unwrapped him, put him on the bedside table, and lay down to watch an episode of The X-Files. Saturday the 28th of January. Slightly restless night last night. There was some noises coming from the room next door, shall we say. Well, that's probably best that's all we say about that. On the route from the motel to the centre of town, I keep seeing an interesting old church, excitingly decorated with a vivid abundance of art, and across it a banner, Anti-Oppression Church of Hardcore Folk Art. It just looks so exciting, but every time I go past it's closed. I'm probably either too early or too late. I'm hoping I'll have the opportunity to go inside before the end of my trip to San Antonio, which is looking less and less likely, as today is my last full day here. I went inside the legendary Alamo mission and the Museum of Artifacts, where you can see things such as Davy Crockett's fork and a peg from Crockett's cabin. Davy Crockett was a folk hero, king of the wild frontier, and tragically killed in the Battle of the Alamo in 1836, a terrible siege between the Republic of Texas and Mexico. I noticed that Davy Crockett's fork had one of its prongs missing, and so composed this short poem. Time now to spare a thought for the prong that's gone from Crockett's fork. As I was walking along a side street, I saw a masked man in black. He had a wide-brimmed hat, a sword, and the sign of the Z. I have my suspicions that it was Zorro, but I can't be sure, and I guess we'll just never know. Sunday the 29th of January. Well, it was time to pack up all of my things and leave the comfort of the motel. Take down the underwear line, streamline my rucksack by leaving 2 golf balls I found in La Hunter in one of the drawers. I find it hard to resist picking up lost golf balls, but it was time to let them go. And maybe the person who tidies the room will be a keen golfer. And so it was back to my life on the rails. There had been a spell of train delays and freight trains breaking down apparently, and the journey through Texas was quite monotonous. The big sky squashing the land until it was very flat and boring. But the trains in Texas are only 3 times a week, so if you get off, you need to be very sure you want to stay there. And I just wasn't going to take that risk.